Okay, so let's go in, like, talk a bit about in-game, because there are some things that I'm quite curious about. Because
Sure.
again, let's like like diverge the different tiers, right? So when you see top talent, and especially during eco rounds, right, you see them like fill in, like basically talk about almost anything except of Counter Strike. But then
Yes.
in the important rounds, they really know how to build it up and make it like super exciting and know the stakes of that round. But like, what effect do you think like that fill round has for the entirety of the match?
Um, I'm pretty sure, at least for me as well, I will do the same happily. It's simply because we want to, as I said earlier, we're not just people that shout at pixels, right? We are trying to make a connection with the audience. So, for example, the most recent off round I had where it was in eco, I think I talked about like what did I talk about? It was something like really stupid and random. It was like I think it was. I think I mentioned the word payload in a round, right? And just saying like they keep pushing the payload forward, just like edging back into the game. And my co-commentator Yumi at the time was like, "Oh, payload? What? You're an Overwatch player?" And we just went on a little tangent, and I was like, "Nah, I hate that game. You know, like I don't like that game at all." And so the connection that you have in that eco round is to share your personal thoughts and make that connection with the viewer at home. Because if it's just Counter Strike, then sure, it's probably good to a product that you only want to watch the Counter Strike, but to a certain level, when you listen to someone, you can't just listen to 3 hours of Counter Strike on and on and on and on. Obviously, it's the whole point of watching Counter Strike is that you are watching the game, and that's what you commit to when watching a stream. But these commentators having their little off rounds, a joke here and there, just having a giggle and having a good time, it's all part of the broadcast because at the end of the day, whether it's like a spam in the chat or anything like that, or just people having a good time at home listening and laughing along, the grand scheme of things is that connection is the most important one because you're going to want to stick around and listen to more. Kind of like a podcast, right? Where if you bring up an interesting story, and if a podcast keeps bringing up these interesting stories, then you're going to go back and listen to them. And that's the very same thing with a caster, but on a much smaller and time constrained scale. Is that the 30-40 seconds that you have in an eco round, let's make a joke, let's make a story, so the viewer listens and goes, I'm engaged, I want to listen to more. Obviously I'm here for the Counter-Strike, but I will absolutely stay to hear these like little gimmicky things that these casters do. So I think it's actually one of the more important things to do is to give a little bit of a breather, but also to give everyone a bit of a laugh or a joke, or just something outside of Counter-Strike, just to keep your mind in tune.
Yeah, but also like what you see a lot in both like upcoming casters, but also like fairly like less experienced casters is like they will completely neglect that point and only focus on the Counter Strike. And like when you neglect that point, right, it just misses like it misses some flavor, some color for the entirety of the entertainment product, right? So when it comes to these like I don't want to call them fill rounds, but it's basically like what they are. But again, like that, can you see it as like your moment of distinguishing yourself from other casters, where like your stories can maybe be a bit funny, maybe a bit edgy, maybe innocent? I don't know how you want to present that story, right? But like, is it like a way for you to like make yourself unique instead, like one of the factors that maybe at least of making yourself unique in like
Yeah,
compared to other casters?
I would say so. I think that there's a real chance for you to make that connection, right? And say you tell like one of the funniest stories, and everyone's in hysterics, then everyone's going to remember that, right? And everyone's going to go, oh yeah, do you remember like that game, like that commentator made that funny joke or whatever. You're right. It's very hard to do in a solo cast. I will admit to that. So if there's people listening, and obviously you're watching, and they're doing ECA open games on themselves, or main games, or advanced games, whatever it may be. It's hard for them to do it. I think it's a lot easier to do it in a duo. But the time that you do get, the downtime that you can share a story, whether that's, as we say on these eco versus buy rounds where it's going to be 5 blocks running somewhere, they're not going to win the round, then, you can have a little bit of a joke and a laugh. And I think, as you said, casters aren't just there to shout, they're there to be entertainers and make the broadcast entertaining. That's the whole point. And so you're not going to hire someone that doesn't. And then these jokes make things just a little more entertaining and a little easier, I feel like, for the people to watch at home. So yeah, I would say it's actually a pretty important thing.
Yeah, okay, because it's often something that's overseen when you see casters and when you talk about the game, and like especially like both Scrawny and Londres and Machine and Sponge are extremely good at just taking out the tempo of the game, getting the colors in, basically, as I would call it, like the fill rounds, make it exciting, make it interesting, and always have like the viewer's attention in mind, so they don't like fall back in the couch and just sit there and mindlessly watch, but they are actually actively trying to make them engage in it, like engage in the match. And that works both for inland audiences, because I was live at the Blast in Copenhagen, like we talked about, so there was a lot of that going on, and you could feel it like in the entire audience, but also when you're at home, even when you watch like Relog Media, or if you watch ESL Pro League groups online, there are some aspects that make it so much more entertaining when you have some of these factors in mind.
Yeah, I think actually it's a super important thing to have in a broadcast. I wouldn't say the most important thing. In fact, I think everything in casting is there because it is important. The fundamentals are that when you get into this industry and when you want to put yourself on an analyst desk, or if you want to put yourself in front of the camera as a caster, or whatever it may be, is, okay, sure, skill is the most important thing, but making the broadcast entertaining is what brings in the numbers and what brings in a good stream, right? So Scrawny and Launders, I'm going to take them as an example because I personally think they are one of the best, top two duos, if not the best. I would actually create that debate because they're very entertaining and fun. And I think when you look at Machine and Sponge, sure, they've been doing it a very long time, and they are legends to the casting scene. And I absolutely love listening to them cast. When there's a stream on, there's no need to mute a stream when they're around. And the same for Scrawny and Launders. But for me, it's them having a joke and a laugh and just enjoying themselves. That relatability for me is like the most important thing in a broadcast. Is if I can sit down, listen, and laugh along, then I'm going to tune into a broadcast. And from a hiring perspective, from a TO's perspective, is a Scrawny and a Launders or a Machine and a Sponge is really good because they keep the numbers going. People want to listen. People want to join. And not only that, those numbers equate to sponsorships. They equate to money, basically. And so that's why not only is it good to be good, but it's good to be entertaining, because that also keeps the numbers. A good caster can do really well, but a great caster is someone that does well in their craft, but also can keep the viewer engaged.